Republican and Democratic presidents and Congresses that have punted on this issue of immigration for decades.
This has been a bipartisan failure. A bipartisan failure.
I want to turn now to our next audience question. KJ McKenzie is a registered Republican and a digital media business owner. KJ?
As a lifelong Marylander and a former Democrat and a Black woman, I left the party because I got tired of hearing racial framing on every issue that didn't solve real problems like crime, failing schools, high taxes, and cost of living. So how will you earn back voters like me who want results, not racial narratives?
Amen, KJ, and thank you. And thank you for your question too. You know, I don't come from a political background. You know, it's true. When I remember, you know, when I told my family that I was going to get ready to run for governor, you know, I had members of my family who I had to convince to vote for me. And it's not because we're not cool, like we're cool. It's I had to convince some of my family to vote, because that's just not our background. And the truth is that part of it is the challenge of party, because I think if you ask members of my party, members of my family, which party has failed you when you think about the policies that have impacted my family, they couldn't tell you who was in charge. They couldn't tell you if it was a Democratic idea or a Republican idea. They just know it was a bad idea that hurt us. So I hear your frustration. And I think in this moment that the job of the Democratic Party is not to just energize the base. It's to enlarge it. It's to speak to everybody. You know, I think about being here right now in Dorchester County. You know, I lost Dorchester County by 14 points when I ran for governor. And you know, this is my 17th time in Dorchester County since I have been the governor. And people say, you know, you're spending a lot of time in Dorchester. You know, there's a lot of Republicans. And I said, yeah, there are a lot of Marylanders. And that's all I need to know. If they're a Marylander, they're good with me, and we're going to keep showing up. And I think that's what people have to do. It's not about just how do you energize a base or give the party the red meat. It's about how do you focus on actually addressing the issues that people care about, like lowering costs, like giving people quality public education, the same reasons why I ran for governor. If you do that, you don't have an election problem. And we won't have people like you, KJ, who are wondering where your political home is, because you'll go to the people that are delivering results.
Governor, can I follow up?
All right, everybody. Welcome. Tonight, we are reacting to the CBS town hall. So actually, and we're not reacting from the couch. As you can see, we were all in the room. Every one of us here was in the room. They filmed here in Maryland just this week, last week, actually. So while CBS aired this polished town hall with Governor Wes Moore, we were sitting just feet away watching what you didn't see. And trust me, there's a lot they didn't show. All right, Shelly, Logic, Michelle, and I were all there. We watched the crowd. We watched the tone shifts. We felt the temperature change in the room. And yes, I asked Governor Wes Moore a direct question. You saw his answer tonight. All right. But what you didn't see was the atmosphere before it and after it, the reaction after it, and the parts that didn't make the final cut. Tonight, we're bringing on attendees who were in that room with us, regular Marylanders, to sound off on what they thought about the governor's responses, the tone of the town hall, and whether their expectations were actually met. Was it substance or just smooth talk? And I'll give you my unfiltered reaction to his response to my question, especially as a lifelong Marylander, Baltimore born and raised, and former Democrat who is tired of narrative politics over real solutions. This is the live response you won't get on CBS. Let's talk about what really happened. Welcome to the joint live show of Pop in Politics, Christian Conservative, and Just the Guys podcast. How are you all doing tonight?
What up?
Hey, I'm doing great. You'll see my face behind making the same facial expressions as I just did. A whole lot of eye rolling happening.
Michelle, it was this town hall was Governor Wes Moore, Norah O'Donnell, and Michelle. Michelle was in every frame. Wow. All right, folks. As we always say, please, as you come in, hit that like button. It helps to get this video out in front of a wider audience, and we appreciate your support. Also, folks, if you haven't done so already, what are you waiting for? Please subscribe to this broadcast. As we say, every broadcast, tap that thumbs up, smash that subscribe button, and turn on your notifications. We are live here on YouTube. If you're on the go, you can catch us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify under the name Pop and Politics. Also Christian Conservative and Just the Guys podcast. All right. We love our chat. We've got the best chat on YouTube. We shout out every super chat. So drop your thoughts, show your love, and join the conversation that the mainstream media wishes didn't exist. This is not just a podcast. This is a movement of God-fearing, truth-seeking, America-loving people that value freedom. So stand with us and subscribe so we can amplify this rallying call for freedom. All right, let's set it off. Before we bring on our attendees, just want to get a quick response from you all before we get into this. Shelley, you were in the room. Just a quick response. Before attending the town hall, what were you hoping to hear from Governor Moore? And then after hearing him, did his responses meet, exceed, or fall short of those expectations?
Well, before I went, my expectations were that he was not going to be any or say anything differently than what I've already heard. Then I said, okay, let me try to be, fair and balanced to name a phrase. Okay, let me try to be. But when I got there, as I said to the governor, he's getting a 5 from me because I wasn't convinced. Still not convinced. Don't know what he actually meant by what he said, but we're going to get into it a little bit more. Before you go on, KJ, we do have a super chatter already. We have here from our producers, we have Kung Fu CJ. Thank you for your $2 super chat for being one of our mods, our freedom seeker. Kung Fu says he's going to be in the gym, but he's still listening. And you're actually listening, quote unquote, to 3 different podcasts tonight, 3 different live streams. So thank you, Kung Fu CJ, for that.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you. Michelle, want to get you in on this ladies first tonight. What are your thoughts after hearing what expectations did you go in with? And then after hearing Governor Moore, did his responses exceed or fall short of those expectations?
I had different expectations based on what the producers gave out, was that they asked a lot of conservatives. There were so many Republicans in that room. We actually thought it was going to be a majority Republican hardball questions, where of course we knew he was going to have scripted answers, but at least those questions would be asked. So I was really disappointed when they, took a very small handful of questions for that town hall. And of course, majority were from, like-minded Democrats. So again, disappointed, but not surprised by his answers. His answers are the same, and you see it on my face. I didn't have high expectations for him, but from the producers, I had hoped it wasn't going to be a softball setup like it was.
All right. Logic, same question for you. What expectations did you have going in? And after hearing Governor Moore, did his responses meet, exceed, or fall short of those expectations?
Well, when you hear someone say you're invited to a town hall, you kind of expect there to be some type of town hall-esque discussion, which there was none of that. And, they did ask the questions beforehand. So I just figured that was maybe, just a way to prepare, which is fine. But at the same time, there was no organic element to the conversations at all. So I just thought at least that there would be that. And then, of course, when you go to edit it or produce it, you cut out what you cut out. But there was no back and forth from the audience. It was just like he walked in like a movie star. And, you know, it's just a very polished campaign stop. I just say Republicans in this case were bamboozled. They made it look like Wes Moore was a bipartisan mayor to put the governor to put him on the national stage because his next stop is a presidential run.
All right. All right. Fiery comments from Logic of Just the Guys podcast. All right. So we got to get the attendees. We have multiple attendees that were in the room and want to hear the feedback from them. So first up here is the mayor of Cambridge, folks. All right. We have the mayor of Cambridge joining us tonight to provide feedback on what she thought was the best part of or her feedback on the night, on the town hall. Do we have mayor here?
She's here, but her camera's not on. I'm not sure if
Can she hear us?
Yeah, I'm in the if you could come back to me in 5 minutes. Remember, I said I was at another stream.
Oh, yes.
So
Okay.
in 5 minutes, I'll be ready. My apologies.
Oh no,
Thank
that's
you.
fine. That's perfectly fine. All right. So let's get see who else do we have here. All right. Let's bring up let me see here. Shariah Yousefi. All right, Shariah, how are you tonight?
I am well. How are you? Good evening.
Good
Hi.
evening. Good evening. Please just tell people who you are, anything you want to shout out as far as events or your in social media before we get started.
Yeah, well, again, thank you for having me. This is such a great honor and privilege to be here. Shariah Yousefi. I am actually running for the Maryland House of Delegates in the southern portion of Harford County. I believe my website is listed there at the bottom, yousefifordelegate.com, if you want to learn more information. We do have an event coming up. It's on April the 2nd. That is also listed out on the website, but we're very excited. The momentum behind the campaign, we've been building it since the fall, and it's going incredibly well. And it is time. We need fighters in Annapolis who are unapologetic, who have stood and understand the principle behind this fight. And you all referenced it earlier, but the campaign has always been putting Harford County first and standing on the foundation of faith, family, and freedom, because that is the bedrock of a sustainable, prosperous country that we have here. So I'm very excited to be here. I'm very thankful to have this opportunity to weigh in on what was a very performative town hall.
All right, excellent. Before I get your thoughts here, folks, we have almost 400 people in the chat. Want to get those likes up, people. So as you come in, please hit the like button. And if you haven't done so already, subscribe. All right, Shariah. So I want to ask you, was there any question tonight that you felt didn't get fully answered or any follow-up you wish had been asked?
I actually, yes and no. I think I wanted him to dive a little bit more into the energy question that was very much glossed over, and he threw in the two words that everyone was looking for, which was gas and nuclear, and that does not count to the state that we're in right now. But I really felt it was a dishonest conversation when he addressed the immigration piece of it. I'm a second generation. I'm the daughter of a legal immigrant married to a legal immigrant and the mother of a dual citizen. So when we're talking about these questions, and I also am a resident of the county where Rachel Warren was raped and murdered, where Kayla Hamilton was raped and murdered. And so my sheriff has been on the forefront of this conversation on the 287G program. And when he not only articulated it incorrectly and the way that he talked about the program, but then tried to turn it around and say that this was somehow in the name of public safety, that is disingenuous at best. That is the opposite. This is him responding and using a platform that he has as governor to take a shot at President Trump. That's what this is. And we don't want it. We don't want it removed. We want those referrals to stay in place. That keeps our communities safe. It keeps our kiddos safe. So I was very disappointed. It was the question I had submitted. It was not selected. I was disappointed it wasn't selected. And then I was disappointed that he missed that opportunity to share how protective he would be of Marylanders in that case.
Let me ask, Shariah, how many times have you heard Governor Moore mention Rachel Morin?
Not much. I can't even really think of it that often. And she's only starting to circulate now because we have been unrelentless on pushing this. And so I actually testified against the 287G removal program before the Senate and brought it up. And I can tell you when I provided my testimony, I mean, They were not willing to follow up with any sort of questions, and I had sheriffs sitting on both sides, and her name was brought up. They were not interested in hearing that story. They did not want to talk about it. They would rather act as if it didn't exist. They would rather act as what they're doing is in the interest of public safety and move on from there.
Wow. Yeah. I wanted to ask you, what was the question? I'm not sure if you still remember or you have. What was your question that did not get chosen?
Yeah, so I'll summarize it. It was a little bit on the longer end, but I essentially said, Governor, as a mother and as a resident of the county where these rapes and murders took place, how can I trust you to prioritize my family and my community safety when your administration and the agenda from Democrats in the General Assembly have consistently prioritized criminals over victims, and they have consistently given atmospheres for where it incentivized criminal illegal activity, and then it leaves the community bearing that consequence. So that was going to be my question. Point blank, you do not have a track record on this that has produced any type, in my estimation, safety measures, and so I wanted him to be held accountable for that.
And you know what? I'm going to jump in there because that was my question. It was very similar. It was on the House bill and the Senate bill. So they had that submitted by multiple of us. And my follow-up question is, if you are going to sign this bill into action, so in Maryland, the bill passed House and Senate, and of course, they're going to not work with ICE, attempt to not work with the federal government, but we'll see what happens in the long run. I asked him how he was going to be accountable, and is he going to work to then remove illegal aliens, especially criminal, violent, illegal aliens. What is he going to do? They did not want to touch that with a 10-foot pole.
Yep. When I walked in, I shared this actually with someone. I walked in, the producer looks at me and goes, "What is your name?" And so I share my name, and she goes, "Oh yeah, I know who you are." And I was like, "Oh, you pulled my question, didn't you?"
Wow.
So you are absolutely right. They had no intention on asking that question because they know it's true, and they certainly don't want to hear it from someone who is the product of legal immigration when we're talking about this.
Right. So, Shariah, just up to date for our audience, if I'm not mistaken, just this week, our Maryland House of Delegates and this Maryland Senate and Governor Moore already signed the bill to remove the 287G program. Is that correct? And it's effective immediately. It doesn't even wait until June or July.
It's emergency legislation. That's correct. So we've had sheriffs, our sheriff has said we are going to figure out how to still provide that coordination. There is some technical aspects to it. I know PG County, a few others have been able to do it. They're effectively running 287Gs. They're not calling them 287Gs. So we are working now on the ground to figure out how we can go about that because the sheriff needs to do what he needs to do to keep our community safe. And he answers to the people here in Harford County, and he knows that in a positive way. He is an incredible sheriff. So he was like, "Governor, you can be as performative as you want. My job is to keep my community safe, and I'm going to do that."
All right. Well, folks, we are an all Maryland panel. We were all in the room at the CBS town hall with Governor Wes Moore and Norah O'Donnell. Folks, as you come in, hit that like button. It helps to get this video out in front of a wider audience. Also, your super chats go a long way in keeping us online and supporting this channel. Before I let you go, Shariah, I want to make a fact check on the governor because he made a comment about how ICE is arresting random 5-year-olds like Gestapo raid on a playground or something like that, he said. But he made the comment that they were arresting 5-year-olds. Folks, we know, we've talked about this many times on this channel. That is actually not true. What actually happened on January 20th, 2026 in Columbia Heights, Minnesota, a sanctuary, as we know, Sanctuary City, Minneapolis, ICE ran a targeted operation to arrest Adrian Alexander Canoja Arias, an Ecuadorian national who entered the U.S. illegally in late 2024. He had a pending asylum claim. He claims he came in through the CBP One app. DHS says he was a Biden catch and release special and offered him voluntary return. He said no. His child, Liam Conejo Ramos, 5 years old, he was in the car with his father coming home from preschool. Okay. DHS and ICE officially announced that the father saw agents. He left his child. He fled on foot. abandoning the child in the vehicle. Agents secured the boy for his safety, apprehended daddy. Mommy refused to take her child when asked. The dad chose to stay with the son. They were held together at a family detention center. Okay, this happens whether you are legal or illegal. If you were arrested with your child, they take the children to the detention center and they will take them to child protective services. All right. So they did not arrest a 5-year-old child, and it is something that they are spreading around, and it is not true. It is not true. Okay. So we are always seeking the truth on here, no matter whether it's the left or the right. So they held about 10 to 12 days as a family unit, and a judge, I believe, ordered them released. Okay, as of today. So they're back in Minnesota. DHS is now fast tracking deportation proceedings on their asylum claim. All right. So there it is. We got to set the record straight on this, folks, and not let people misinform and outright lie about certain things. All right, Shariah, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you, Shariah.
Thank you for having me. Have a great evening.
You too. You too.
And while Shariah is leaving, we have another super chatter here. We have Laura. Laura, thank you, Laura, for your $3 super sticker. Thank you for being one of our frequent chatters, our frequent poppers and supporters. We thank you all. Everybody in the chat land, go ahead and hit that like, share, and subscribe right now. We have more commentary, more reactions from this town hall. If you've seen the town hall, put your comments in there and tell us what you think about it as well.
Absolutely. All right. We're going to bring up now the mayor of Cambridge, who is also there live at the town hall. How are you doing tonight?
Hi, I'm doing well. Thank you for this invite. I truly appreciate that.
Hi, Mayor LaJean. How are you?
Doing well. Thank you. How's everyone doing?
Great.
Doing great.
Awesome.
Yes, doing great. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. All right. So want to get right into this. Want to ask you, so what specifically stood out to you as actionable that something Governor Wes Moore said at the town hall?
Well, my perspective is a little different because I work with his office, and if there's a need that my city needs, we just reach out to someone in his staff. And then when it's time for that budget to be passed, he always thinks of communities such as Cambridge. We were just identified last year on Juneteenth as Cambridge being a just community, as well as other communities in the state of Maryland. And these are communities who, in history, they've always been left behind when it came to funding. And also when it comes to investment in our infrastructure. So my perspective is different. I'm not waiting for him to show me what he's going to do. I understand it. I have the phone number. I make contacts. We send emails. We get the funding. So my perspective is a little different.
All right. Was there any question that you felt didn't get fully answered, or any follow-up you wish had been asked?
I think more follow-up, because I know we have people in the community, they do have concerns about, their immigration status, and as far as what does protection look like to them. And then you have the flip side where we have folks in our community where they're concerned about public safety, and they want to know, what does immigration look like to them? So I don't know if it was because it was limited on time. I believe he could have dived a little better, and he could have answered the concerns of those who believe that we need more strict guidelines on immigration, as far as those who are committing crimes, but at the same time their immigration status is questionable. So I believe he could have dived more into that.
Okay.
Now, I have a question. You are the mayor of Cambridge, right? Are police under your control or your jurisdiction as well?
Well, the way our government is structured is we have a weak mayor form of government, but our police department, it's under the commissioners of Cambridge. So I don't have direct control over our police department. That would be a decision that the police chief would recommend to the commissioners, and then they would make that decision. And then if it's in the form of the ordinance, I have the opportunity to saying, vetoing it so that it doesn't become law. Hopefully that answers your question.
Oh, gotcha. Well, I was just curious. Well, I understand there's a difference between police and sheriff, but I just kind of thinking about the 287G and the immigration question, though. Governor Moore kind of framed it as deputizing law enforcement. So I was just curious, I guess what is from a mayor perspective, what is your perspective on that? Because from my understanding, when we saw the amount of deportations under, for example, the Obama administration, that was because there was more local cooperation with local law enforcement, and it seems now it's that very element that is really under attack now, where that information can no longer be shared, and it's being rebranded as deputizing versus information sharing of local law enforcement. So is that something that you're seeing, or can you speak to that?
What I can speak to on that is the sheriff's department is not under the city of Cambridge. That's Dorchester County. We do have a sheriff. From my understanding, there is no agreement that's in place. It doesn't necessarily mean that, the county is against any activity that, that ICE is doing or anything at Homeland Security. It just means that there's no agreement that's in place. And then the other thing, in addition, anytime there's any activity within our city, we are never made aware of anything that's happening. So there isn't necessarily refusal to work with them. It's just that there's no agreement. So it's just essentially the same as, and this might be a strange example, but let's say with our postal service, we don't know what the postal service is doing unless they decide to give us the information. And that's the same thing with ICE. We don't know what ICE is doing. They do not share any information with our chief. We often find there's activity after the fact, after if they're able to recover a person or individual. We normally find out later when folks are either calling City Hall to make complaints, or if we see videos like on social media.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Marilyn Jane, again, thanks for being here. I have a question. So in your county or in your area, your city, if you will, city of Cambridge, have you seen an influx or an outgo of the population in the last, within the last 10 years or so?
As far as population growth is concerned, Dorchester County and Cambridge, we've pretty much stayed steady. In the last census, we have seen an increase in growth of maybe about like 1,000 residents. That's as far as the city is concerned. But overall in the county, we're pretty flat. We haven't seen any influx in growth. And most of that is, if you look at how Dorchester County, how it's comprised, even though it's one of the largest counties in Maryland, if not the largest, the majority of our county is water. It's wetlands. And much of that you cannot build on. So, the only part of our area where we do have the opportunity for population growth is like Cambridge and other rural areas such as Hurlock. But the way that we do that, because again, we're limited on land, is we have to go up. We have to, build upward and to increase that density. But the culture of our community is they don't want to do that because we're rural and they like it the way that it is.
Well, y'all got a Zaxby's now, man. So I might move out there.
One more quick question. You gave Governor Moore a 10, and I absolutely said no. I'm giving him a 5. I'm not convinced yet. On what basis were you giving him that 10?
I give him that because again, my perspective is different. I'm not waiting for him to show me what he's going to do. He just released his budget. I would say like a couple of weeks ago. So if you base it off per capita, he is investing more money in Dorchester County than any area in Maryland. He's putting the money where his mouth is. He's not just saying what he's going to do. He's actually investing in communities like our communities as rural, and we've often been left behind. So that was the reason because of that. But I truly understand your perspective, because although Cambridge majority is a Democratic city, the county is very red, extremely red. And I think that's probably the reason why Dorchester County was chosen for the town hall, because if you went anywhere else, it would have been probably difficult to have different sides of the spectrum to come together. But in Dorchester County, we definitely have that spectrum. Like we have our extreme Democrats, and then we have the same, with our Republican Party. And then, of course, we have those that are in the middle. So many of those that you saw out there with their signs saying no more, many of them, they were Dorchester County and the city of county residents. They weren't bussed in.
All right. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on tonight. Is there anything you like, any events or any social media, or you'd like to shout out to the audience before you go?
The only thing I can think of is, this is Maryland's 250. We hope to have an event in September. It's a Harriet Tubman Summit, because many forget Dorchester County is the birthplace of Harriet Tubman. I know they said it was the stop on the Underground Railroad. No, this is the birthplace of their Underground Railroad. So I would just love to welcome you all back in September, so we can celebrate Maryland history, Dorchester history, Cambridge history, and also, again, celebrate Harriet Tubman and all the work that she's put in, for everyone, and, inspiring folks, with the Underground Railroad and her fight for freedom.
Hey, real quick before you go, Winter Mako is often held in, and I'm bringing it up to you. I go to Winter Mako pretty much every year, and I get annoyed that they only stay at the resort and don't go to downtown Cambridge, because y'all got some hits down there. Blackwater Bakery, Thai Italian, R&R, man, y'all got some hits down there, man. So just putting that out there. You need to complain to the people at Mako and tell them you need to make some type of link between the Hyatt or the whatever the resort is and downtown. Something needs to happen.
Noted. And I've made that request before. I agree with you. I think it's always great when you have folks that are coming in town so they can see what else there is to see aside from just the Hyatt, which is still a great resort. But thank you.
No problem.
All right.
Thanks,
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mayor LaWarren. All right.
So while the mayor's leaving, we have some more super chatters while the mayor's leaving. I do want to say on behalf of the mayor, she didn't pay me for this, but Dorchester County, all the counties in Maryland are so beautiful. They're different. Some of them are green, some of them are a little bit more rugged, but they are all beautiful. And Dorchester, Cambridge, Maryland certainly meets that criteria. So we have Laura here. Thank you again, Laura, for your $2 super chat. She says y'all are on fire. All of you out there in Popper land, chat land, keep popping off, hitting that like, share, and subscribe. And when you come to Maryland, like Giovanni's saying, Logic saying, we got to make a stop in Dorchester.
All right. Well, speaking of Southern Maryland, we want to keep it down there and bring on BJ. BJ is with us. He was there at the town hall as well. How are you doing tonight, BJ? Oop, can you hear us? Oh,
you're on mute, BJ.
He got that Southern Maryland internet.
Oh.
I'm telling you, that's why I show up at the office in different places. BJ and I are down here.
I think he's still muted. Can you hear us?
Yeah. No, yeah, he's not muted, so it must be something on his end.
Yeah, it must be.
Oh, now we can hear you.
Oh, you can? Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Excellent. All right. How are you doing tonight? Please shout out where you are and anything else you'd like to share with the audience.
First off, just thank y'all for having me on. It was a great time hanging out with y'all at that Thai Italian.
Right.
Logic is right about it being an excellent spot. But I'm in St. Mary's County, at the bottom of the map, down in 29B, where I'm running for the House of Delegates this year. So I'm excited to be with you all, and I'm excited about my campaign. If you want to find me on social media, it's BJ for SMC. Also, you can find me online, BJ for SMC.org.
All right. Excellent. Thank you so much. So let's get right into this. Want to ask you the same thing. Firstly, before attending the town hall, what were you hoping to hear from Governor Moore? And then afterwards, did his responses meet, exceed, or fall short of those expectations?
Well, it's funny because I'm always careful about what I say about my expectations when it comes to our governor. But it's pretty consistent that he kind of runs through his script. He has his notes that we probably heard everything that he said in in the town hall at some point in the previous 2 weeks. They sent questions out to us to kind of give us the impression that we might have a decent opportunity to engage in discussion, productive discussion. But what it turned out is just an opportunity to watch him show off his oratory skills and say, "Hey, and watch him melt one of our hosts right there in his hands." So I was like, "Oh, I see why he's good right now." Anyway, but no, it's
yeah. He's BJ is talking about so Shelly and I both said that, just looking at the town hall objectively, not from a right leaning, which we both are, perspective, he does come across as very charismatic. If you don't know the issues, you don't understand what's going on, he does come off like, he's believable. He is believable. So, and Michelle, what's your point? What's your thoughts on that? Because Shelly and I shared our thoughts. What did you think about that?
Yeah, but you know how I feel about forked tongues, and I'm kind of representing Christian conservative, and I'll tell you right here, I was praying while I was sitting there. So you see my eyes rolling, but I was actually, as soon as he walked in, I went straight into prayer. And I don't say that to brag or anything, or just say, everybody should be. No, there was a shift. And the same as when some of us go in the rooms and there's a shift in the atmosphere, you'll see me behind him. If you go back and watch, I'm there the whole time. Yep. And there was things that he was saying, and I was like, Lord, this man is lying. Catch his tongue. He has a wicked tongue. But like Gavin Newsom and like Barack Obama, yes, they are very well spoken. They're captivating. And that can make you lose focus in what the real issues are. And that's what they're banking on. And that's why they're prepping him up to be a presidential candidate or a vice presidential pick. Absolutely. So just be careful what your ears are hearing. And then you have to go back and, check yourself and your spirit and against that spirit, whatever's come out of his mouth.
Yeah.
I was waiting for Sade to start singing "Smooth Operator."
Sade.
He does. Like KJ said, if you did not know, if you didn't even read, okay, if you just sat there and listened to him, you just walked off the street, you would you would just be so engrossed in this man himself, just the man himself. He's very likable. In person, he's very likable. He's friendly. He smiles a lot. I can't stand when he does this. His lip bite. That is, oh my gosh, that's so effeminate. Okay, but when he does that, but again, much of what he said, it was frustrating me. It was frustrating me because I didn't want to make some of the faces that I normally make because the cameras were all around. So I'm trying to sit there and look as stoic as possible. But it's just, it was frustrating.
BJ, what was your question? Do you recall? Can you?
Mine. My thing is, I get into the budget piece of it. So I read all the audits and everything. So he came out and spoke about his intention to be more punitive about on the departments when it comes to enforcing the findings or making sure that they're corrected. And so he had a lot to say about that. So I wanted to understand if he was going to do any restructuring of the government to become more efficient, because we see how they haven't been efficient in using the money of the taxpayers. So looking at all the departments and all the audits that are done, we've identified billions of dollars that have been wasted over the past few years. And I'm like, just coming out and saying we're going to do better is not good enough. It's like, all right, what's the plan? It was like, you see that each department is bad, but if you look at all of the departments, the 22 departments under his governance, it was like, how are you going to fix all of that? How do you get rid of all of the redundant services? How do you, so I wanted to talk about that. And I think it got chosen, but you saw me walk in last, and I think I missed out on my opportunity to get my card. And so I hope he was ready to actually have that discussion, but I'm sure that he would have just gave me some cute little talking notes.
Yeah, let's share the clip about gerrymandering. So he was asked about the portion where about gerrymandering.
I do think there's a fight in this country going on right now in terms of the direction of the Democratic Party and the direction of the country, and specifically here in Maryland and some other states, the question about redistricting or gerrymandering. You have backed a plan here in Maryland that would help Democrats win an additional seat in Congress. So how do you respond to members of your own party who say that is going to backfire both legally and politically?
Well, first, I want to give context as to why I think this is important. I think this is important because, let's be clear, Donald Trump started this conversation when he started calling Texas and said, I need you to find me votes. And then it's Florida and North Carolina and Ohio and Missouri. And we're literally trying to watch. If you cannot win on the issue, so what do? You rig it. So the election then becomes preordained, and then you can have an opportunity to make that pain permanent.
But if you do that here in Maryland, there's only one Republican district. Republicans won't have any representation in Congress.
But for me, this is not about, are you going to fight for a seat? For me, this is about, are you going to fight for democracy? Are you going to fight to make sure that it's not Donald Trump who determines what our democracy looks like, that it's the people of Maryland who determine what our democracy looks like? And so that's why I ordered a governor's redistricting advisory commission, which was a bipartisan commission that met for months and listened to Marylanders. Every Marylander had a chance to make their voice heard. And they came back with recommendations. The House of Delegates debated it. They made adjustments. And then they took a vote. So what they did was they did their democratic duty. And so the only thing I'm asking for the Maryland Senate now, where the bill is with them, is debate it, discuss it, and do your democratic duty to vote. No matter how the vote goes, I'm good, because that's democracy. But what I'm not okay with is watching democracy die in the free state. That's not who we are. And so what they propose is something that's actually helping to make 6 of the 8 congressional districts more competitive. But more importantly, this is democracy.
Look at my child.
Democracy is always worth fighting for.
All right, we have.
All right.
Wow.
So I want to. So are you, BJ? Are you and Michelle? Are you guys in Andy Harris's district?
No, but my district, BJ is in my congressional district. So BJ can vote for me, and he and I are friends. We go to a lot of events together. But not in Andy's. It changes all of the congressional districts. It ropes in a little bit more Democrat in every single one to make sure they will never be competitive. For me, it goes from Southern Maryland, where BJ is, St. Mary's, Calvert, Charles, and it scoops way up into the upper echelon of Prince George's County, where it has no business being. Just to make sure we have the Prince George's County voters dominating and eliminating all of St. Mary's votes.
I think it's hilarious. If you ever looked at the heat map where it shows where the Democrats have that nice blue center of the state, and most of the geographic space of the state is red. And when they draw that map, they take all of those rural areas and dip them into the urban center, just to make sure they have enough votes to make sure that it's a Democratic heavy district. And so it was funny because I saw Michelle's face as he one of the tales that he spilled during that speech of his, and I think her and I locked eyes and almost laughed out loud. I looked, I was like, "Are you serious? Did he just say that?" I mean, to the bipartisan piece is just hilarious to me. It was like we got a random mayor against 4 Democratic heavyweights, and it was like, okay, well, he's going to have a serious say in this on this committee, and then the process of just he talked about it like it was a long period of time. It was like November to the end of the year. And we had a couple of meetings, we let a couple of people talk, and everybody said they didn't want it. But this is democracy. It was like, oh, we're protecting democratic principles. What? You got to be kidding me here.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I didn't understand. That he was saying this was democracy. But and I was
The
asking
exact opposite.
Shelly, talking to Shelly about this,
That's
saying,
what I was
well,
going to say.
how is this democracy if he is disenfranchising a whole area of people?
So let me tell you what he would say. That's what I was trying. That's what I was explaining to you. First of all, that was the map of the proposed, I guess the proposed redistricting map that they're saying, where they cut out, or I should say, like Michelle said, they add in another whole county pretty much to make this district on the eastern shore. Where Michelle and BJ are, they're on what we would call the western side of the shore, on the western side of the bridge in St. Mary's County. You can look at that map and figure it out. But to your question, KJ, what Governor Moore was saying about democracy, he said he's more concerned about democracy than he is about basically disenfranchising a whole district, a whole million plus people in Maryland, give or take, right? His definition is because the Senate President Ferguson of the Maryland Senate, because he is not allowing the vote to come to the floor, he is therefore stopping or intervening in the democratic process. He's talking about the process of not having to vote. What he's not saying is why Ferguson won't bring the bill to the floor. Number one, President Ferguson of the Senate, and again, he's a Democrat. 99% of the things we don't even agree on. He's saying, number one, he's not going to bring it to the floor because the current map that we have is really already out of order, if you will. We're kind of getting away with the current map of only having one district. Number two, if he brings it to the floor, it will be voted on by all the Democrats in Maryland. It will pass, but it's going to go to court. And in the middle of this midterm cycle, it's going to bring in so much confusion, and that the real risk is that Maryland governor might lose the whole thing. We may come back, or the courts may come back and say all the maps, including the current one, none of them is constitutional or apportioned correctly. So the Ferguson is weighing the risk of us having to start over from scratch in the middle of a midterm cycle. And he's basically saying, look, we're already skirting on thin ice with the one we have. We better keep skating with this one before we push it.
Well, yep. Either way, I mean, he is really eroding democracy, in my opinion. Because instead of him following population shifts and things like that, as far as doing these maps, he's electing the officials, because he's drawing the map to protect himself and the Democrats, and that's insulation. It's not democracy.
Well, he said it in what he said. I mean, he said what he was trying to prevent Donald Trump from doing is exactly what he's doing. Like, he's trying to make these forever seats. And anytime I don't know, but anytime these politicians are accusing somebody else of something, it's probably exactly what they're doing.
Yeah. Exactly.
I think the thing that I don't think we talk about enough is the fact that he's trying to change the Constitution. They're trying to change the Constitution as well. And so it was like, this violates the Constitution technically, according to our last round of court cases. And what they're doing is they're providing a clarification to make sure that this only applies to the legislative maps and not to our congressional maps. So sneaking one in and hiding it from the people on page 40 in a bill that's right after all of the census data. They hide a constitutional amendment in a bill on page 40. That is crazy work. And it's funny part is he's sitting there talking about that the game is rigged. I'm like, come on, the game is being rigged by you here. I mean, and it's like, let's talk about our legislative maps. I was like, this is the most gerrymandered state when you look at our legislative maps as well. So, but that ain't what we're talking about right now. So
you're right.
Anyway.
You're right. We have a couple super chatters.
Oh yeah, go.
We have a couple of super chatters here. Lester Sean Manning, thank you for your $10 super chat, Lester. Everybody else, hit that like, share, and subscribe out there in Popper Chat Land. We love you being here. Don't forget your merchandise. Go to our YouTube store page on the homepage of YouTube for our show, and go in the store and shop until your heart is content.
Hey, there's a sale going on the store today. I think it ends tonight. So There is a sale going on, so get your merch. It's get a couple of dollars off and you're good to go.
All right,
Y'all got those
BJ,
three
thank
X's
you.
in?
Say again?
Do you have those three X's in? All right,
Yes,
let's check it.
yes.
I need to get mine.
All right,
Thank y'all
BJ,
for
thank
having
you
me.
so much for joining us tonight.
Thanks, BJ.
Thank y'all.
We got to
Y'all
have
a
you
good
back on. Okay. All right, folks. Again, we are talking about the town hall aired tonight on CBS News with Norah O'Donnell. We were all in the room. It was with Wes Moore, town hall with Wes Moore. We were there, and we're bringing you what they didn't show, what they did show, and our feedback and analysis of the town hall. All right, so you have here, we're popping politics. You have Just the Guys. Logic is here with Just the Guys podcast. And Michelle is here with Christian Conservative.
Hey.
All right. We are all here breaking it down for you. We want to bring on another attendee of the town hall. This is Rosalind. Rosalind Hanson was there this week. How are you doing tonight, Rosalind?
I'm a little too fired up on a Sunday night after watching that.
I know. Exactly. I got fired up too. Everybody in my house was fired up after watching it. So first, before we get into this, please share where people can find you. Anything you want to shout out to the audience, please share.
Absolutely. So I am in Montgomery County, and you can see my X handle there at Rosalind Hanson. I am the chapter chair for the Montgomery County chapter of Moms for Liberty, and you can learn more about Moms for Liberty at momsforliberty.org. It is the nation's largest parental rights advocacy group. We have over 130,000 members nationwide. So I was proud and enthusiastic when I was invited to attend the town hall, but it definitely didn't meet what I anticipated would be taking place.
Absolutely. So I want to start off with, what was your question, and what were you anticipating this was going to be and what it wasn't?
So I thought it would be a town hall where constituents of Wes Moore's would be able to ask him questions in real time and get real answers, like town halls that we've all been to before. This was definitely scripted. You all probably talked about this. We had to submit all of our questions in advance, and then CBS cherry picked and pulled which ones that they were going to allow to be answered. So I think that's really disingenuous.
And before you move on there, I'm sorry, before you move on there, I want to kind of expand on that, because that's something we haven't talked about much. And that's not something a lot of people know what occurred. So, we all were people reached out to us from CBS, and they made it seem like we all had questions, and that we were going to get to ask our questions. We didn't know until we got there that we all were not going to be able to ask our questions.
Correct.
They were only taking a few. Michelle, what did you think about that?
Yeah, I said at the beginning, and I'm saying it again, it was upsetting. It was misleading. And the producers and the representative they had was really smooth on the phone, very kind about submit the questions. In fact, it was almost one of the reasons we got selected, is that we submitted our question. So we all felt like we were important. And because we submitted it and it was approved, we got the invitation. We all didn't know that several different groups were invited. So when the representatives spoke to, say, a Republicans Central Committee here or a Young Republicans Club, we didn't know that the Young Democrats Club was being invited, or that a Sierra Club, I don't know, whatever clubs we had no idea. So It was really a setup and kind of sneaky. And we got there and we saw the different colored wristbands. And when I saw KJ's, I said, I knew something was up right then and there. And we got this list of what we couldn't do, and one of the rules is we could not engage with the governor unless he engaged with us first. So let's just be clear on that. There's a reason we weren't allowed to say anything back and forth. And
How much engagement did you have?
None. Zero.
Nah, hold on. KJ got a little bit of engagement.
I didn't really get much engagement.
The question.
He was talking to us.
No, I was there, KJ.
Wait a minute. Before we get to that, I want to finish with the KJ.
Because I wanted to ask you, Shelley, what do you think this was a setup?
Well, let me answer this way. Before we left, Casey, you know, I was telling you, I said it felt controlled. I said it was too rigid. It was, you know, it was just too controlled. I said I felt that. Then when we got there again, like Michelle said, we all submitted questions. I mean, they were like adamant, send in your question, send in your question. And when we get there, we find out they were already chosen. And I just knew it then. I said, this is going to be so set up, so organized to the point you can't even fart if you wanted to. Okay. I mean, it was just that's the part that made me a little. I was like, you know what? This is all for show. This is all performative, if you will. Then I actually thought, initially, I thought that, okay, town hall, that most of the questions would come from the audience. Okay. Maybe even once I saw that they had chosen, I was surprised they only chose about 5 or 6 questions.
Yeah, it wasn't even that many.
That's it. They didn't even choose. I mean, out of all the people that were there, there were more than 100 of us. Only 5 or 6 questions, and the questions were they were not just randomly selected. They were ordered into how they would go, which means they had to match up with Norah O'Donnell's cue cards. So even the question, remember, KJ, your question, every question had, because I sat where I was sitting, I think I was sitting in kind of in the middle of all the people who asked questions. And every question had at the top either A, B, C, D, or E. So that was the order you were going to go in. And so each one of those questions, again, I think it was 6, maybe 5 questions that were asked total out of the whole night. And they all were in one section. They weren't even spread around the room.
Rosalind, so do you think CBS had something to do with this? You think they're trying? I mean, you think that they're on the team more?
I think that this is 100%. It was optics. It was theater. And when you think about some of the other things that happened that the audience, like tonight, people didn't see. I loved, what was it? He was a cellist, right? Who performed for us in advance. That was beautiful music. But make no mistake, that was intentional to soothe the beast before the programming started, to get us all thinking in the same page, on the same beat, with very soothing and enjoying music. That was intentional to get the audience all on the same wavelength, right? And then you think too, Wes, to the point you made earlier, he is very smooth, but he also has a forked tongue. Yes, he talked to a handful of people when he was leaving, right? Kissed babies, shook hands, that kind of thing. But when he walked in the room, he did not even acknowledge any of his constituents. There was no thank you all for being here. I'm so happy to see all of you. No one got addressed by the governor before or after, with exception to a few people. And I think that's really telling, because our governor loves a good photo op. And here he had over 100 of his constituents in a room. And where was he taking photos with his people?
Yeah. I want to get
KJ was in some of those photos.
Yeah, we were. I want to find out, Rosalind, what was your question? What was it that you wanted to ask?
Yes, so you might be familiar, Montgomery County parents sued our school district and we won in the Supreme Court in June in Mahmoud v. Taylor. And so I am also one of those unnamed plaintiffs as a part of the Association of Parents in that lawsuit. And so my question for the governor was going to be surrounding around, you know, in addition to parental rights in knowing what we can and can't our kids are learning in school, does he support gender secrecy programs and pronouns being hidden from parents? As the governor of our state, as a parent, does he support those policies that are in place in places like PG County and Montgomery County, where parents are sidelined and that stuff can be hidden from parents? But I think it's telling, because I don't know what he would have answered, but when he was talking about the Vax Act, he very clearly said, let parents choose. That Vax Act is all about letting parents choose. But that's different because his administration actually submitted an amicus brief against us parents in Montgomery County who wanted a choice to opt our kids out of these very sensitive books that go against our religious beliefs. So he's very good at talking out of both sides of his mouth with that forked tongue, depending on the audience.
Absolutely. He's very good. Before we get into the next part of that, we have some super chats, Shelly.
Yes, we do. We have a few more super chats here. Thank you, Kung Fu CJ, for your $2 super chat and being a member of our Freedom Club here. He says he had to hit all 3 super chats. Well, thank you. Bam, bam, bam.
Oh, thank you.
Kung Fu CJ again for your another $2. He says, "Wow, Zesty is rigging the
So if you don't know, Wes Moore is his name. That's what we call him. That man sat with his legs crossed the entire time,
Like Newsom.
flailing his hand like this. Come on, man.
Well, that's right. Wait a minute. Well, Kung Fu, everybody out there in chat land, Kung Fu said it. He hit all 3 chats. You need to do the same thing. You need to hit the chat for Poppin' Politics or the like button. I'm sorry, for Poppin' Politics, for Just the Guys, and for Christian Conservative. Go ahead now. Just get your phone, your laptop, and your desktop, and go to each page and hit the like, share, and subscribe buttons on all of those. We also have Gloria Beardsley.
Wow.
Thank you, Gloria, for your $50 super chat. He says, "I love the panel tonight. Thanks for all you do every single time you guys broadcast. I'm late to the party tonight, so please just take my money and run. May the Lord continue to bless you, us, our leaders, and all of Americans." Thank you, Gloria.
Thank you so much, Gloria. We really appreciate you. All right, we have this clip because Rosalind, and this was the part that really pissed me off. And Rosalind, you touched on it. How he spoke, he said one thing, but we know his actions say another. This was a clip part of a gentleman was asking him a question about getting male teachers. Take a look.
Curtis Valentine. He is the president of the Male Educator Network and Policy Institute and chairman of Real Men Teach. Curtis, thanks for being here.
Thank you. Recently, your administration invested $19 million in an effort to provide more opportunities for men to become school teachers. As someone who's a former middle school teacher and a member of the school board for the 2nd largest district in this country, I can affirm the research, the impact that men have on their students both in and out of schools. What else can your administration do to pull young men out of this crisis we're seeing in Maryland and around the country?
Thank you, Curtis, and thanks for your leadership, too. You know, part of the reason why I wanted to put a clear focus on young men and boys was both, as you mentioned, Norah, the data is just so clear. And we've been ignoring data for a very long time. When we're looking at everything from suicide rates, when we're looking at the job placement and job growth, when we're looking at reading levels, we are watching how young boys have continued to fall off. And I remember when I first brought it up, you know, there was a lot of controversy behind it. And people were saying, well, does this mean you're not going to support young girls? I said, no. What we're saying is this: we are going to support our young women and girls. But if you really want to support your young women and girls, make sure we have strong men and boys in society, too. That you got to make sure you're lifting up both intentionally. And so we did. We focused on things like putting more male mentors inside a classroom and more male teachers. That we focused on things like making sure that homes of worship were involved inside of this conversation, and we're creating new opportunities. We made Maryland the first state in the country that now has a service year option for all of our high school graduates, many of them young boys. That I signed the largest mass pardon in the history of the United States of America when I pardoned over 175,000 misdemeanor cannabis convictions in the stroke of a pen. Much of that benefiting and supporting young men who were finding themselves completely wiped out of a job market for a misdemeanor cannabis conviction from the 1990s. And so by putting a very intentional focus on our young men and boys, we have seen how not only has that helped to drive the improvements that we're seeing in Maryland, we have been able to cut the teacher vacancy rate in half in the state of Maryland since I've been the governor. Much of those have been men entering into the teaching force. That we've been able to see graduation rates spike, that we're now watching how in most grades in Maryland, essentially every grade in Maryland, both reading and mathematics are up, and our early childhood reading has jumped 20 states in 2 years. I'm a big believer, because I've seen it in my own life as a person who was raised by an immigrant single mom. That my mother could do a whole lot to help and support me and lift me.
No.
She couldn't teach me how to be a man. The same thing for my daughter. I love my daughter with my whole heart. There are just certain nuances I can't teach her about how to be a woman. My wife has to do that. Her aunts, her grandmothers, her friends, that's going to be something that they are going to be uniquely able and capable to do. So I just want to make sure that all of our young boys, no matter their situation, that they can get the same kind of supports that I got and you got, because that will help them turn into not just good and decent, but contributing men.
Oh,
All right, Governor,
just
thank you.
stop
And
it.
ahead,
Stop it.
Maryland.
This is a bunch of crap.
He's such a liar.
And you let me see why. I was so upset about this. He sat there and said that only a woman can teach. Only a man can teach a boy how to be a boy. Mom couldn't teach me how to be a man. And yet they will not tell the truth about biological sex. Shelly had a trans guy sitting next to her, trans woman, whatever he was.
We see her in the
Exactly. He's sitting there giving off this lip service, which I agreed with the points he made, but on the other hand, they're sitting here trying to tell us there's no such thing as a biological woman. Men can be women, women can be men. It's
Absolutely
ridiculous.
And you know what, KJ? Another thing I thought about with the governor with that, and it just came to me today, when Governor Moore first became governor, took office, he advocated, supported closing down a very excellent school here in Baltimore City, the Baltimore Collegiate School for Boys. He was adamant about closing that school. Has had success for those young boys that were there. We had Carl Stokes on our show before, who was on the board or the principal of that school, and another school. The schools for those boys, they were putting out like 90 percentile graduation rates, going to high school and college, getting jobs. These young boys were growing up and maturing into young men. Governor Moore advocated to close that school down. It was by a snippet, if you will, that they didn't close it down that year. But guess what? The same ilk of people, they succeeded in having that school shut down this year. They just signed off on having that school shut down. But this was an all-boys school. One of a few, if you will, in the city, certainly.
The only one in the city.
And predominantly black boys. The ones he always says that look like him.
And Rosalind, you said you have a fact check.
Yeah, this is the perfect clip, because this is exactly it. Governor Moore says, and this I struggle again with CBS and Truth.
Right.
All of this can be fact checked. Why didn't Norah fact check him or come prepared in any capacity?
Right.
It's such a mess. Our graduation rates from last year to this year just dropped a percentage point. It's a lie. And if you think about it too, our African American students in the state of Maryland, when you think of Algebra 1, Algebra 2, and Geometry, if you go look at the data, the NAEP scores, only 10 to 11% of them are proficient in mathematics. That's it.
Wow.
Like, it is abysmal education here in the state of Maryland. And for him to tout it on national news like it's some sort of success is how he sleeps at night.
Yeah, but when you get 0% proficiency and you go to 1%, well, then there's his improvement. And that's the other thing. He's saying almost everywhere across the board. Yeah, because you were 0. Baltimore was a laughing stock in the nation. 20 schools.
Also, they changed the graduation requirements too.
Yep.
There was 3, now there's only 2 requirements. As far as grading, and you don't have to. What is it? The standardized testing or something like that. You don't have to show that you're proficient in it. You just have to get your service learning hours and one other thing, and then you can graduate. So there's the standard for graduation has gone down, which has led to the graduation rates, the alleged graduation rates going up. So you have to look at what's causing this, because he's saying that we jumped 20 states. Well, why? Why?
Right.
and when you look at the details, it is because the standards have been lowered so far.
Yeah. And folks, it's not a one-off with him. This is the Democrat Party. This is their positioning, their posturing on gender, on education. But speaking of gender, we just had a viral video this weekend of Hillary Clinton in Munich, however you pronounce it. And she is talking at a forum for women, and she brings on Tim McBride, who pretends to be a woman. So she's in Munich. at a conference for fundamental rights for women in a panel with a male transgender talking about what women's needs and wants and necessities are. Take a look here. This is clip one.
One who's been involved in this work for a long time in trying to explain and truly bring people together around issues of gender, and that's Sarah McBride, U.S. Congresswoman from the state of Delaware. You know, as a gender rights champion, and also the first openly transgender member of the United States Congress, you've been on the front lines of this fight. And you've also been on the receiving end of so many threats and attacks that come from, again, in many ways, organized efforts. So when you hear Neil talking about it from a European perspective, although he did bring us in at the end there, Sarah, how do you see it from the United States? And I want to underscore how truly effective Sarah has been in talking with her colleagues, first in the legislature, the state legislature in Delaware, now in Congress, and you have shown immense grace in the face of attacks, even from your fellow members of Congress. Well,
wow. This is a forum, fundamental rights for women. How can we trust these people talking about being leaders and mentors for boys or girls, and they will not even acknowledge biological sex? It's disgusting.
It's what feels good in the moment. Pause. You know, it's all they have to do is say something that makes you feel good right then, and the next moment doesn't matter. Like, and this is why the Democrats just thrive off cognitive dissonance, right? Because somehow they can connect the dot from men need fathers or boys need fathers, and then say, well, there's no such thing as a man, or can't define what a woman is, and somehow all of this makes sense. But if you notice, it really only has to make sense in that moment. They don't have to connect the dots. There's no connection between the two. You can hold the same thought. Have one belief 1 second and hold a different belief another. You're only a bigot when you maintain consistent thought. If you think consistently, now you're a bigot.
Yeah.
Well, this was a mess. And from Christian conservative perspective, this is wickedness in high places.
Yeah. Absolutely. And this is why we must continue to call this stuff out. We must continue to speak truth to power, to fact check them. That was another thing you brought up, a very good point, Rosalind. Norah O'Donnell didn't fact check him on anything, not on the border, not on immigration, not on anything. She did not fact check him on.
Nope.
So like he literally said about permitting, he's going to permit the federal government to death in Hagerstown with the ICE building that's being built, right? Like that sounds like something out of The Sopranos, and she's not going to push back there.
No,
I'm actually glad they kept that in there. I thought they were going to edit that out. I am actually glad they kept that in there because I'm curious to see what Trump is going to say about that.
And I'm also curious to see how this next town hall goes with JD Vance. I want to see what they're going to do because it's a different interviewer. I believe it's Tony Don Quipple,
the new guy.
Yeah. So, you know, I wonder if he's going to get the same cushy, easy questions, no fact checks like they did Wes Moore.
No way.
Nope. Well, let's see what
Rosalind,
our super chats have to say.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm sorry, Rosalind. Let's see what our super chats have to say. Let's see. We have Jill Bates. We have Jill Bates. Jill says, thank you for your 10 hours. Jill says, love you ladies. Keep it real. I am no longer in MD, Maryland. I had to go. Yeah. Wow, Jill, let us know where you went if you don't mind. You can email us, text us, or not text us, you know what I mean? DM us on YouTube or something. Kung Fu CJ, you're back again. Thank you.
Thank you.
He says, everybody in the audience is looking at him crazy.
Right.
And then we have the Scrapping Beauty. Hello, my love. Thank you for your $5 super chat. Lower standards mean less proficiency. Yes, thank you very much. Thank you all our poppers out there. Keep hitting that like, share, and subscribe on Poppin' Politics tonight, on Christian Conservative, and on Just the Guys. You have 3. Hit them 3 times. 3 shows. Go ahead and hit those buttons on all 3 shows tonight.
Yes, indeed. All right, Rosalind, thank you so much for joining us tonight. And please tell everyone again where they can find you, any support you need, or any social media you'd like to shout out.
So I am on X mostly, so at Rosalind Hanson, and I am a member of Moms for Liberty, momsforliberty.org. It's all across Maryland, all across the nation. We have 10 chapters in Maryland. So if you care about parental rights, if you care about education, and you want to advocate, go to momsforliberty.org and learn more. But thank you for letting me join you. I am so glad to have new friends in Maryland fighting the good fight.
Absolutely. We got to have you back on. Definitely.
Good to see you, Rosalind.
Bye.
All right. So one last part of this town hall I'd like to go over before we leave tonight is the part he mentioned about the cost of living and energy. So I believe he was asked a question about energy costs being so high and what is his administration doing to lower those energy costs. And so he provided a statement of saying he blamed PJM. PJM Interconnection, which is the energy company that controls, I believe, 13 states all along the East Coast. He blamed them for it, and he's been doing this for quite some time, blaming PJM. Take a look at this clip. This is clip 4. What he's talking, we blamed him in previously.
Let you know I hear you loud and clear, and there is a frustration. There's a frustration where it seems like seemingly on all levels that Maryland's farmers are not being seen and they're not being heard.
Governor Moore quickly took aim at PJM Interconnection, the region's power grid operator, striking his hand at times on the podium. He blamed PJM for Maryland's skyrocketing electricity bills.
And if we're going to be serious about actually creating a future that makes sure that we can respect all parts of the state and make sure we're protecting our farmers and protecting rural Maryland, it means that Maryland will continue to do things like standing with these other states and pursuing a lawsuit against PJM to lower costs and make this a fair process. This is not right.
Energy policy has been one of several key priorities Governor Moore's tried to advance during his time leading Maryland, months after taking over.
Okay. And he says pretty much the same thing in the town hall. He blamed PJM for the high energy costs that we have been experiencing in Maryland. I want to start with you, Michelle, because you're in Southern Maryland, and in rural area. What did you think of that exchange he had at the town hall?
I mean, really, it's outrageous, and he needs to blame his raggedy self. I'm just gonna, himself, the administration. Here's the thing, and this is for those of you popping politics. I know we're watching in different shows. So I have a construction company,
right,
transitioning commercial. So I do commercial, residential. He has made so many claims that are outrageous. When you run off power plants and factories because you decided to buy into the Green New Scam. And you're going to focus on wind energy that makes absolutely zero sense in the state of Maryland with all of our trees. The same thing as solar, right? Why are you going to put up solar panels in a state that is virtually green everywhere? Well, you have to get rid of all of the trees. So they have policies that make no sense with no background and no research. And I think it's really interesting that he would have the audacity to talk about rural communities or farmers. Of course, he had to hit all of those target areas when he is right now trying to redistrict the one rural farming area, which is congressional, District 1. So how dare you? It shows that he's clearly, these are talking points, and he has no understanding of electricity and how much we are importing. This is not just one company. Open it up so that multiple companies can compete. But no, they're not going to do that. Let's actually focus on nuclear. No, they're not going to do that. There are ways to do it. They don't want to. It doesn't win them elections. It doesn't get them the votes they need. Or really, it's not about the votes. It's about the big money that's actually padding his pockets on the back end. I need all of us within the sound of my voice, pay attention when politicians start talking about energy and don't know about energy. Because all of the windmills offshore couldn't even power Baltimore. I don't care how many solar panels you put up, you can clear a city's worth of land and you are not going to be able to power large cities. So this is nonsensical. He needs to go back to the books or maybe just pick one up.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Folks, within this PJM interconnection, which hosts a ton of states up and down the East Coast, Maryland is the second has the second highest energy cost. Above that is just New Jersey. Okay, so we are the second highest. Now, when you compare us to Ohio and West Virginia, our costs are way more than those two, really all of the states, but West Virginia and Ohio are a little more similar. So he just gave us a bunch of baloney. Logic, what are your thoughts on that exchange?
Well, so this is one of those things where you kind of play on ignorance of not understanding how things work. So when it comes to energy, right, you have three main elements. One, you have energy production, right? This is where the energy comes from. Then two, you have energy delivery. That's PJM. And then you have energy storage, and that could be batteries and some other localized things, right? So what he's not talking about is the amount of energy that we're not able to produce. When you look at the entire grid and what, because what we do is go to an auction. This 13 state coalition that we have, certain states produce more energy, other states produce less. And when you go to this kind of, you go to auction to bid for how much energy that you need. So the reason our costs are going high is because one, Maryland has came up with these green policies and said, you need to use more electricity. You need to electrify everything. I mean, Baltimore City banned gas leaf blowers. So what kind of leaf blowers do you need? You need electric. They had the EV policies that you need. So you see all these EV charging stations coming up everywhere. What do they need? Electricity. And then the data centers are being built.
Logic, I just want to jump in very quickly. What you're talking about, those two major policies are the Maryland Clean Energy Jobs Act and Climate Solutions Now Act. Those are two of the major policies that govern what you were just talking about.
So absolutely. So we have to electrify everything at the same time, reduce our electric producing capacity. And we virtue signal in Maryland, or this policies are virtual signaling in Maryland, because what they're saying is, oh, we can go to the 13 state coalition and request all the coal burning states to give us the energy. So it's like you're being hypocritical, saying, hey, those states can do it and they send us their energy. But what happens is, because you're not supplying enough for the demand to meet the demand, the energy bills naturally go up. It's just basic economics at that point. It's supply and demand. And as much as they try to keep pushing the cart, pushing the can down the road, blaming somebody else, and because people are hurting, because people are feeling in their wallets, they'll cheer for the person that says at least they're trying to do something. And that's what's happening. But the answer that he gave, though, in the town hall is really what annoyed me the most, though, because what he said was, we're not doing enough. He said we took $100 million and tried to give rebates to people. Think about that, right? So first off, how does government get money? Your taxes. So you're saying you're taking tax dollars to give it back to people who have to higher energy bills because of the policy that you created. And if you're not doing enough, that means you need to create more rebates if that's the method in which you want to solve the problem, which means you have higher taxes.
Yep.
So your energy bill is going up and your taxes is going to go up because you get a $20 rebate.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Before I get you in, Shirley, when he said that part, I was thinking the same thing. When he said we're not doing enough, I said, man, you're doing too much. Okay, you got statewide renewable mandates. You're doing the offshore wind subsidies. You're doing the reduced fuel diversity. Okay, you're doing too much. All right, you're doing so much. You're doing the stuff that's causing our energy prices to increase. That's what you're doing. Shelly, what are your thoughts here?
Look, this should be an abject lesson in equity and redistribution. And at some point, you run out of other people's money. PJM is saying they're tired of paying for it. They are a business. They are in it to make a profit, not subsidize your state, particularly when your state is not even adding to the building, if you will, or to the profit building. They're not. They're just sucking out everything they can. That should be number one. Number two, another point that I make regularly: too many laws, government overreach, government intrusion, if you will, trying to mandate and fix everything that doesn't need to be fixed, or they certainly won't do what actually works, because all of these things are keeping the politicians in office. They're keeping the people, the networks and the cronyism, all that. They're keeping all of that paid for, while the people of Maryland in particular, whose bill, somebody just put their bill went from $100 to $500 or whatever the case may be in 1 month. I've seen others who've gone way more. Okay. It's also, again, government trying to fix itself from the policies that they put in place, but we are all supposed to follow the rules, follow the law. Wes Moore ain't got to pay no damn bills. We pay for his freaking mansion, him and Dawn. We pay for them. His children go to a private school. He gets driven. I bet you they're not electric cars. He gets driven in big cars like Brandon Scott. Gas powered, maybe hybrid, but certainly gas powered. He doesn't have to do all of that. So we are footing the bill. We keep voting these jokers in who really don't have any of our interests in their mind. They want to make power, make money, prestige, and status for themselves. This is a whole lot of stuff. Ronald Reagan out in with this. What does he say? The 9 words: I'm from the government and I'm here to help. They should make you run the other way.
Yeah. Who's the one that approved those rate hikes?
The commission, the public service commission, or whatever you call it.
Yeah, but who allowed it?
Maryland government.
Yeah, Wes Moore.
Yeah, he picks them. He picked their appointed people on there.
Folks, I encourage you, because don't take our words for it. Look up, because he again blamed everything on this PJM interconnection. Go on there and look up these other states that are also on the PJM interconnection, specifically West Virginia and Ohio, which are 2 states that are, their energy costs are at the opposite end of Maryland and New Jersey. Okay. The big difference between us and them is, one, of course, West Virginia is coal heavy. So they have lower compliance costs. But the big thing is most of this extra cost is the legislature. It's policy driven. Okay. Maryland has less in-state generation, higher renewable mandates. It's these mandates that they continue to put on us. And you can look on your bill, and those mandates show up on the bill as line items. Okay. And these offshore wind procurements. This is what is causing us to have large energy pricing. It's policy for the most part. Okay. This is what it is. And he doesn't want to admit it because they want to continue pushing these Green New Deal kind of initiatives. Absolutely. We have some super chatters here. Yes, please.
We have a few super chatters here. I think it was Kofi 19. Hi, Kofi. Thank you for your $10 super chat. Hey. The worst part is that Wes Moore is telling these bald-headed lies and creating this chaos in Maryland. All the while, he's planning to run for president and leave us here to deal with the mess. You got it, Kofi. Thank you for that. Thank you. Josh, hi, Josh.
Hey, Josh.
Thank you for your $20 super chat. Hey, fam, there's a reason why legacy news is dying. We can tell that it's controlled and questions are pre-selected. They can't have open debate. People know it's fake. Also, there's a reason Trump is locked in on Moore. I think that's what it is. Yep. Thank you, Josh. And Jill says, thank you for your $5 super chat. She says she went to New Hampshire. She could not take the Democratic insanity in Maryland and Virginia anymore. Well, thanks, Jill. Thank you.
All right, folks. Well, we are at the end of our time tonight, but I want to ask each of you, this was sort of eye-opening, because we were all of us who were attendees were really we were in this, we were working with CBS, so I mean, it was really eye-opening to me, because this tells me that they really are trying to help these Democrats. Final thoughts on this entire ordeal. Your expectations, you kind of talked about that, but just final thoughts on this town hall.
No, I do want to just reiterate that conservatives, Republicans, whomever, like, we do need to be as organized as the Democrats. And the reason I say that is because if this was a Republican event, and they reached out to all the Democrat clubs or Democrat committees and things like that for them to attend, most likely they would not have shown up. Mm-hmm. And I think on the Republican side, we do this thing where we want to hear, we want to communicate. And at a certain point, we have to play chess in this particular manner and say, none of us should have showed up to this event, because this was a key campaign stop for him to appear bipartisan on the national stage. You got to remember, this was CBS National. This was a national town hall that's going across the country to make Wes Moore appear a certain way, right? And we missed the opportunity to make that an empty studio and to show that, like, he's not as supported. But again, Republicans tend to want to, or conservatives tend to want to say there's a chance for open dialogue when the other side isn't really interested in speaking. So, I think we have to be more organized and being able to make those moves when they come. And, we can see what happens next time.
All right. Shelley, what are your thoughts? Logic brought up a very good point. Do you think conservatives shouldn't have showed up?
No, I disagree. I think I'm glad we went. I knew it was going to be controlled. Like I said, I'm glad we went in this particular event. I don't think protesting, like the people outside were protesting, I think we needed to be there. Granted, I mean, we kind of realized that we probably weren't going to be chosen, or there were not going to be many questions. But the fact that we were there, because that little bit of contact that we made with the governor, again, I'm not going to say it's going to change his whole day, but the fact that we all showed up, and we all are Black, okay? And I don't think he expected to have any Black person there that did not agree with him. Mm-hmm. I don't think he expected that. So the fact that we were there, again, I mean, I'm not voting for the man, but my point is that we were there. And even on CBS's list, if you will, they know that we are conservatives, that we're not Democrats. Certainly, we're not Wes Moore sycophants. They definitely know that. So I would not have protested that, because if we protested it, they wouldn't have known we were there at all. We would not have even been able to see it firsthand to give this account of it. And our voices are going to be out there just as much as CBS's is.
All right, Michelle, what are your thoughts?
I totally agree that we needed to be there, because we would not have known, right? Had we not shown up, us specifically, the four of us, we wouldn't have known that we were totally bamboozled with, from the introduction to the phone calls to submit your questions. Everything looks great. We had expectations. Now we can speak with absolute clarity that this was a setup, with absolute clarity that we were there behind the scenes. Guys, I'm loving the comments here. Laura, everybody's seeing my faces. I was not seated there behind Wes Moore at first. Nope. In fact, I was next to Logic, a couple seats down, and they looked around. They saw a friendly Black female face. They saw me smiling, and they asked, "Are you by yourself?" And I was like, "Yeah." So they said, "We're going to sit you here." They picked me up from my seat and they moved me to that chair so that I would be on the camera the whole time. Just because of the smile, they made an assumption that I was pro Wes Moore. So I'm going to do a whole clip. I was counting on some of those, and there were times I rolled my eyes at least 9 to 10 times. I had a really hard time. And you'll see me take deep breaths, because there was times that I saw the cameras on and I'm like, don't mouth things. There were so many times that I wanted to say, just, you is a liar. You are lying. You are lying for the world to see. But I'm glad that we were there and to see that process, because that's another problem that we have as Republicans, especially grassroots and running, local campaigns. We don't realize just what they're doing behind the scenes, and we need to. It was very clever to set up those invitations. The way that they did it was well scripted. It was well ran. And I'm glad that we were there for it. And I'm glad I was sitting there rolling my eyes and making faces, because, man, That's a challenge to watch when you know they're lying and they're doing it and they don't care about us. I just need to say they don't care about us, the collective us. He doesn't care about Marylanders at all. He cares about his national presence, his money. He cares about a lot of things, but it's not people. And we're seeing that more and more. But glad we could all be there to participate. It was a good time.
You're going to see KJ in some of those.
I was going to say, I'm glad we came too. I'm glad we went too. And I'm glad for one reason. I don't care what you guys say, because I watched it tonight as well before the show. He was jarred, I think, by my question. He was searching. I could see his gears twisting, like, how am I going to answer this because it's a Black woman, I do think that he was caught off guard with the question about the racial narrative, the racial lens that the Democrats and he expect us to look at or look through for not only the solutions, but also the issues for everything under the sun. He didn't know how to answer that. And that's why he went off the tangent on something, that didn't even make sense. But I'm glad we went as well. And because we get to do this, folks, we get to, like you mentioned, Michelle, we get to get back here and show you guys what really went on. We got Michelle's face in the camera the whole time. And you know why they picked Michelle? Because she is sort of like that ambiguous, racially diverse woman. Yeah. You always try to find somebody that could go for, Black or white.
It could have been Latina for all they knew. I was dressed in the dress I had. They could have thought I was Hispanic. They didn't know.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Right. So that's what they look for, the racially ambiguous person. Exactly. And then they got the wrong one. So
exactly. Oh, somebody put in the chat, LJ8, good point. That's a good suggestion. We should send this. To Barry Weiss. Send out feedback to Barry Weiss. Send her a copy, email her a copy of this reaction show tonight.
Good. Yep, absolutely. Yeah, Barry, because they did not do well tonight. They did not do well on CBS. You guys show that you are rigging. You are biased. Definitely. So we will continue to keep you all on your toes. In the meantime, folks, you got to check us. We're live tonight on all of our channels. Logic, please shout out Just the Guys, where people can find you when you all go live.
Just the Guys at Just the Guys podcast on YouTube. And we go live Saturdays at 6:30. Now, we didn't go live yesterday because we was handling business. We was doing the right thing. But normally 6:30 Saturdays, tune in and join us live. And our podcast episodes drop on Wednesdays. So we did have an episode that dropped last Wednesday. But I also want to say, check out the Metro Conservative Media website as well, because we did write an article on this and we actually put in some additional questions that didn't get submitted. So make sure you go to metroconservativemedia.com and check it out.
All right, Michelle, shout out, Christian Conservative and also your campaign as well.
Yes, so I'm so glad that we were able to do this tonight. Hello, everybody watching from Christian Conservative. Love this growing podcast. It's fantastic. What an awesome community. And I am a U.S. congressional candidate in Maryland, District 5. So you can find me at talkingtonforcongress.com. Again, just excited to be a conservative and combat what Moore and everybody else is doing, because just like BJ you saw who's running for office, we don't all look the same. We don't all think the same. And so we have to push back and fight that narrative. And I'm just glad that we can do it and that we're doing that here.
All right. And Shelly, final thoughts. And also we got some super.
We got a couple super chatters here. We have the Voice of Reason. Thank you for your $5 super chat and for being one of our mods. I think I found a way for you guys to rectify that situation. Have a question that you send in and a secondary question to ask that would catch him. Oh, okay. Yep. Okay. Thank you. We'll keep that in mind for the next time too.
Yeah, if we get it next time.
I do. Only thing I want to say, this week we have a very busy week this week. So you guys make sure you go to each page, Christian Conservative, Just the Guys, and of course Pop in Politics. Hit the notification bell, okay? Because we have a little, kind of a busy schedule this week. Some things are going to be going on and things like that. We want to keep you posted, want to keep you in the loop. So hit that notification bell after you subscribe on each one of those platforms.
Absolutely. But we'll be back tomorrow. We'll be here tomorrow night, Monday night on Pop in Politics at 9 p.m. So you guys, please come back tomorrow night. We're going to be breaking down the latest of the day in news and pop culture from a conservative perspective. That's tomorrow, Monday night at 9 p.m. on Pop and Politics. All right, folks, until next time, count your blessings and live a life of purpose. Good night.